welcome to the 30-day photo challenge, April 2021 edition. My name is Elsie and I'm a Kenyan photographer based in the UK. So for the whole month of April, I'll be sharing with you photo stories from BIPOC Women Photographers. And we have one with us today. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name's Cadogan and I'm a photographer. I specialise commercially in interiors and product photography, but I also do fine art photography and sell prints.
Oh, where are you based, June?
I am in good old northwest London in Harrow.
Ooh, I know where Harrow is. I used to work there. Yeah. So June, would you like to talk us through your photograph?
So when I heard about this project, I immediately went to this photograph because I think for me, this photograph is pivotal to my career. I did a part-time BA in photography at the University of Westminster. Before then, I was pretty much just, photographing bits and pieces here, going out into the countryside, a few odd photos there. And I kind of wanted to get a bit more meaning behind my photography, which is why I did the course. And I think this probably in the second year, because the first year was very much about finding your feet as a photographer, trying to iron out which way you were going to go with your photography, reading quite a lot, and taking quite shit photos, basically, just to get all of that out of the way.
Yeah.
And so in the second year, we were moving on to things like documentary photography, which I'd never done before. So I started thinking about projects that I wanted to do, and I was quite interested in sort of old buildings and the buildings that were being renewed. So I took a few photos in central London, and basically my teacher told me to go back to the drawing board and look closer to home. So it was a more personal story. So I'd noticed that the local library was going to be shutting down. So I just rang the head librarian. I said, can I come and photograph the building? And he said, yeah, just come and get the keys and lock up when you leave, which I was quite surprised about because, I'd never asked to photograph anywhere, and obviously I'd never been granted permission either, but he was quite happy to do that. So that's what I did. I drove over there and picked up the keys from him, and he locked the massive doors behind me. And I basically spent probably 2 or 3 days, not all in one row, I didn't sleep there, but over the course of a few days, spent a lot of time wandering around the library and photographing it. They'd moved out at this point. And it really kind of started my journey off and thinking about regeneration, renewal, thinking about place as a concept. And yeah, it just kind of broke the banks, really. So I did really well in that assignment too. It was probably one of my best marks. I was quite pleased with it. And following that, it kind of spurred me on to do more. So I actually went afterwards and did a master's in photography and urban culture at Goldsmiths. So I learned even more about place and regeneration and the history of buildings, etc. And it kind of really kind of spurred me on to think about it even more. I photographed in my hometown quite a lot during that period. I was asking to go into different buildings that I'd walked past. I photographed a spiritualist church that I'd never been into before that had been there for 100 years. I photographed a Freemasons building that I'd driven past for loads of years and had never gone in. That's another story. I was escorted all the way around that one, but that's for another day. I photographed the smallest community centre up on historic Harrow on the Hill, where Harrow School is. So it really kind of opened the floodgates. And finally, for my master's thesis, I looked at a housing estate which was being regenerated. and you know, council tenants were being moved off and then potentially moved back on. The whole place was being knocked down. So it really was the jumping off point for everything I do. And of course now I've kind of moved into interiors photography. So again, I've just, you know.
So this photo is almost like a circling back to what it started with, this project, and then went to do all the other projects, and then we went back to interior design, because this is almost like an interior design photograph.
Yes, exactly. And I couldn't work out why. I tried other forms of photography, fashion photography, food photography, loads of different forms of photography, but always went back to place and interiors. And yeah, and then just suddenly thought, well, just be an interiors photographer, then you can do that all the time, you know. So yes,
I suppose, don't you find, like, looking at this photograph, you find a sense of peace when you're in these spaces, like no one is disturbing you, and then also you're recording, you're in a space where you're recording a memory of the building, of the space.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, funnily enough, I used to go to this library when I was at school, and it was always a place that was, you know, quiet and peaceful, no dramas, no, you know, nothing untoward, just people wanting to sit and contemplate and read. So that's how I wanted to photograph the building. And I think that comes out, I mean, this is only one in a series of 7. But yeah, I think that kind of contemplative feeling comes out in images. Yeah, I was pleased with that.
I really like the photograph. I just like the way the sun is coming through the window and lighting the table, and the desk, the organizer that's on the desk as well, and the whole thing that one of the drawers is missing. It's almost like a symbolic, like, oh, we've moved out, there's this thing that's left, but one of the thing is missing, that they're missing books, like you've talked, this was a library, like there's so many things to, like, break down in this photograph. Like, you can go into much detail. Don't you find sometimes when people look at your work, they tend to find their own meaning within your pictures?
Yeah, and I really like that, because, you know, people find connections that you haven't ever thought of. And yeah, people find all sorts of connections in this. But it's funny because I've actually got that table in my studio because they were going to throw it away. So I've actually got a piece of that photograph always with me.
Wow. The photograph as the object and the object itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow, this is so amazing and wonderful to share.
Yeah.
And like I said, I really like the photograph and just how simple it is, and the story behind it makes you, like, appreciate things, resources that tend not to stay with us for so long. And we have such photographs to remind us of those moments.
Yeah, and I think also it kind of, when I see this photograph, it always reminds me that, you know, just ask for what you want, and they can only say no. So from that asking to go to this building, I then asked to go into all sorts of different buildings, and then I was always told yes. And I still think, oh my God, really?
I think that first yes was your good luck charm. Moving forward, you know.
Oh, this works, you know.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that photograph with us, June. I really enjoyed looking at it and their story behind it. So I really appreciate, what am I going to say? I've lost my train of thought there. Anyway, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
My pleasure. It was good to be here.
What we're going to do right now is do a quick fire question round. I thought this would be a fun way to break up the conversation and see what comes to mind.
Great.
So, are you ready?
Ready.
Yeah. So, fixed lens telephoto.
Fixed.
Fixed. Lightroom or Photoshop?
Photoshop.
Color or black and white?
Black and white.
DSLR or mirrorless?
Ooh, DSLR.
Film or digital?
Film.
Film. That was quick.
Film.
That was really, really quick. Oh, thank you. That wasn't bad, was it?
No, that was fine.
That was fun.
That photograph was shot, so that whole series was shot on film. So yeah, I'm film all the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love the way film gives a certain color cast, especially color film. So it's really nice to see photograph shot on film, because digital cannot replicate that at all.
They try, but it is not the same.
It's not the same, yeah. Well, again, thank you, June, for sharing your work. Like I said, I will be sharing all your details in the description below. So until next time, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.